Hey folks, it's John with KGTropicals.com. Welcome to the first episode of KG Q&A. Super excited about this. I put out the video 2 days ago announcing that we were going to make this series, and the questions started rolling in. If you want to get your questions answered on this video series, send your question to KGQ&A, going to put it right there, at gmail.com. Ask me your questions and you might get to see your questions answered on these videos. This is exciting. We put the video out 2 days ago, and within the first hour of the video going live, I had like 12 questions already. So we got plenty of content, plenty of things to talk about. So let's get right to it. Let's get to the first question. Okay, so the first ever question sent in to kgqa@gmail.com was from our friend JW Heiser. You guys know him, Captain Awesome, Jeff Sacromus Brovi. He's got all these different names. He's a lot of fun to watch, got a great YouTube channel. He was the first one to send a question, and his question was, how do you go about stripping the fry or eggs, whichever it is, from Africans? This is a great series, by the way. Hope you get an awesome turnout. Now, it's really cool that he was the first question that got sent in, but also a little disappointing because I've done 2 videos on that very topic that he asked the question about. But it's okay, because it was the first question. We're going to answer it. I will put in the description links to the videos that I did do about this topic, stripping African cichlids. I did one real recently, actually, where we revisited it. But anyway, it's a simple process. We do it delicately. It's not something that we force. You know, we don't have to squeeze the fish or anything like that. The way we do it is by taking our small egg tumbler, which is a 1-inch plastic tube. We net the fish. We keep the fish in the water, hold it with one hand. With the other hand, we use that tube, which that tube is also our egg tumbler, and we use that tube to gently pry open the fish's mouth. And so in one act, the fish's mouth is opened and the eggs spill directly into the egg tumbler. So it works out perfectly that way. We're not using our fingertip and stripping the eggs and then using something else to pick the eggs up and put them in the tumbler. We, in one motion, get the eggs out of her mouth and it goes straight down into the egg tumbler. Now, that process is the same regardless of how far she is in the process. If it's free swimming fry that she has in her mouth, it doesn't matter. We do it the same way because we found that it doesn't hurt the fish at all. And it's not as stressful as if you maybe take her out, put her in a bucket, or use your finger or whatever. There's all different kinds of ways. People use popsicle sticks. I mean, there's all different things. We found this to be the gentlest, easiest way to do it without hurting the female at all, and it's less steps because the eggs or the fish go directly into the egg tumbler. So thank you, Captain Awesome. Thank you for that first question. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so when I get a few questions that are on the same topic, I will try to lump those together and do them in one video. It just makes sense to do that instead of bouncing around from topic to topic. And this next question happens to do with breeding African cichlids, so we're kind of staying on a topic here. It comes from Jordan Joshua, and the question is, bear with me here, I can see this fine. I know I'm getting old, but I'm not that old. I can see it fine, but it's written a little back and forth. It's kind of strange. So bear with me as I go through this question. I have a problem that has been quite persistent. Every time I tumble my electric blue fryer eye eggs, and then he has in parentheses, I don't mean bounce to the top of the tumbler and back down, haha, just lightly. They do fine for the whole day, but then I wake up the next day and they are dying and or dead. When they are heads and tails, they do fine, and I can raise them up to free swimming fry. What am I doing wrong? Please help. Now, what he's talking about here is if he strips the eggs and there's already fry developing on those eggs, he has better success than if he strips them as just eggs, brand new eggs. So it's a good question, because once they have developed to that stage where the fry is developing on the egg, they're pretty much good to go. And all you've got to do is provide them with good clean water and circulation and they should be fine. But where he's having trouble, I'm assuming, is when he strips the eggs and they are just straight up eggs. Maybe the fish spawned within a few days of him stripping them and they're just eggs. That's when he's having a problem. Now, the answer to this question, you might not like it, because there's not a definitive answer to this question. Bottom line is this: if you, the breeder, are keeping the water clean and the water is at the right temperature and you're doing your job, if the eggs are viable eggs, they should survive. Now, if everything's perfect and you're doing your job and the eggs don't survive, they fungus and they die over, there could be two things. One, they were never fertilized right to begin with, and so it's not your fault. It's just the process of spawning didn't take. You might have an infertile male. If he has spawned with other fish and you've had fries successfully, then it might be an infertile female. You never know. Or the female just might be kind of a rookie. She doesn't know what she's doing, and during the spawning process, she's not doing it right. That could be the first thing. Second thing is, you did make the comment about how your eggs are bouncing in the tumblers, but it could be an egg tumbler problem. Whenever I've lost eggs that is not due to, natural reasons, if I've lost them, it's usually been because I don't have enough movement in the egg tumbler. These eggs need to be constantly moving. They, like he said, they don't need to bounce all the way up to the top of the tumbler. That's a bit extreme. But they do need to be leaving the bottom surface of whatever your tumbler is. So make sure there's plenty of movement, not violent movement, but make sure the eggs are circulating. They're leaving the bottom and they're not just resting on a bottom that's bouncing like a trampoline. I don't know if that makes sense, but make sure there's plenty of movement. Make sure the eggs are not resting on each other. Make sure there's plenty of action going on in that egg tumbler. Not too much action, but make sure that they're moving and you should be fine. So, in conclusion, you might be doing nothing wrong. It might be that the male and the female didn't do their job. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't feed them a different food that's going to make them spawn better. It's just they have to learn. They have to figure it out. If they're very young fish, it might be that they just haven't figured it out. So bear with them, give them a little time, and they will figure it out. Make sure your water parameters are right. Make sure you're doing your job keeping the water clean, and make sure those eggs are moving, and you should be fine. All right, so the last question for this episode comes from Dan Wilcox. He asks, is it okay to start an African cichlid breeding colony from the offspring of a single pair? Wouldn't this be inbreeding? Would it be better to get offspring from several different pairs or several different sources? The answer to your question is yes and yes. First thing to address here is the whole inbreeding thing. Now, we know that in people that can be a bad thing. The hills have eyes. But with fish, not necessarily. In fact, there are a lot of people that would argue that line breeding, which is what we call it, we don't call it inbreeding, but line breeding actually can help you to develop a strain. Now, what happens is, a lot of times, breeders will take fish that show certain qualities, and they will pair those with fish that also show certain qualities. They don't take into consideration where they came from. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to get deformed fish with 4 eyes or 2 anal fins, or you're not going to have any of that if you line breed. Some of my best breeding colonies have been offspring. They've all been brothers and sisters, put it that way. What we have found is, as you develop the line, you will start to get more prominent colors, and it'll be actually a better looking fish than if you bring them in from different sources and all other places. One of the things to think about, you can buy fish from me, and I'm going to tell you I know exactly what they are, I know exactly where they came from, so you won't have a problem breeding those fish. But, do you really know? That's the question to ask. If you buy fish from a couple of different sources, you don't really know what you might be mixing together. So, for me, if I'm starting a breeding colony, I like to get all of my fish from one source. All of my colonies have been bought from one place. If I'm starting a colony of lemon jakes, I get all of my lemon jakes from one breeder. That's what I start my colony from. Because I know that they're lemon jakes. At least that breeder is telling me that they're lemon jakes. So, I don't know if that helps you at all, but line breeding or inbreeding with fish is not necessarily taboo. It's perfectly acceptable, and again, a lot of people would argue that you actually get better fish that way. So, I hope that helps you. Hope that answers your question. And thank you very much for that. Thank you to my first 3 questions that we got on this series. I'm really excited about this. This first episode was a lot of fun already. I can see that this is going to turn into something really special. If you want to get your question answered on this video series, send your question to KGQ&A. Gonna put it down here again. Send the question in and I'll be going through. I'm gonna do as many of these videos as I can. If I get plenty of content, that means there's gonna be plenty of videos. So again, I wanna stress, and I'm not gonna say this in every video, but I will not be responding to these emails. I got enough to deal with responding to all the emails to our other email address. I'm not gonna respond to emails that I get at kgqa@gmail.com. So don't expect an answer from me in type, but you might see your question answered on these videos. Thank you so much for watching. Keep those emails coming in, and we'll see you on the next episode.